She had the world's most coveted face, the most copied walk, the most expensive contracts. At her peak, grown men would literally cut holes in fashion show tents just to glimpse her. Security guards had to protect her underwear backstage because fans kept stealing it as souvenirs. This was Claudia Schiffer in the 90s, when supermodels were gods and she was their golden goddess. But here's what nobody talks about. While her peers spiraled into scandals, while tabloids feasted on their breakdowns, while the fashion world chewed up and spat out its biggest stars, Claudia did something no one expected. She stayed perfect for 30 years. Dusseldorf, Germany, 1987. A packed nightclub, smoke machines, Eurobeat pounding through the speakers. And there, on the dance floor, is a 17-year-old girl who has no idea her life is about to explode. Claudia Schiffer wasn't supposed to be a model. She was supposed to be a lawyer. Her father, Heinz, was a prominent attorney in Rheinberg, and Claudia, straight-A student, disciplined, focused, was already working part-time at his firm. She had the grades, she had the ambition, she had the plan. Law school, then practice, then maybe take over the family business. Fashion? That wasn't even on her radar, but Michelle Leviton was watching. The head of Metropolitan Model Agency had seen thousands of faces, but something about this tall blonde teenager made him push through the crowd. When he approached her with his business card, Claudia thought it was a joke. Some creepy guy trying to pick her up with a modeling line. Her friends convinced her to call. "Just see what happens," they said. "What's the worst that could happen?" Within weeks, she was on a plane to Paris. Within months, she'd have her first Elle cover. Within 2 years, she'd be one of the most famous faces on Earth. Years later, people would ask her about that moment. Did she know? Did she feel destiny tapping her on the shoulder? No, she'd say. She just thought some old guy was being weird. She was more interested in getting back to her friends than listening to his pitch about modeling in Paris. But Leviton was persistent. He found out who she was, contacted her family, and slowly, carefully, he convinced them that this shy girl from Rheinberg could be something special. Her parents weren't thrilled. Modeling? That wasn't a career. That was what pretty girls did before they found husbands. But they let her try. Just for a summer, they said, then back to real life. The summer never ended. Here's the thing about being discovered. It doesn't mean anything until someone makes you matter. For Claudia, that someone was Ellen von Unwerth, 1989. Claudia had been modeling for about a year, doing okay, but nothing spectacular. Pretty German girl, nice face, tallish. There were hundreds like her in Paris. Then, Guess Jeans called. They wanted something specific. Sexy, but not vulgar. Classic, but fresh. European, but with American appeal. Ellen von Unwerth, herself a former model turned photographer, saw something in Claudia that others had missed. Not just beauty, potential. She could be molded, transformed, made into something iconic. The shoot happened in California. Black and white film, natural light, minimal makeup. Ellen styled Claudia's hair in soft waves, had her wear simple white shirts and denim, but it was the attitude she pulled out of this shy German girl that changed everything. Those Guess ads hit like a bomb. Suddenly, everyone wanted the Bardot of the 90s. The girl who could make a white t-shirt look like haute couture. The girl with the walk that seemed to float above the ground. The girl whose face could sell anything. Karl Lagerfeld saw those ads, and Karl Lagerfeld wanted her. January 1990, Claudia's first Chanel runway. She was 19 years old, and Karl had personally selected every outfit she'd wear. "You have something special," he told her backstage. "Don't let them take it from you." She had no idea what he meant. Not yet. But Karl knew. He'd seen it happen too many times. Beautiful girls destroyed by the very industry that worshipped them. He saw something different in Claudia, a strength, a distance, an ability to remain untouched even while being touched by millions of eyes. Under Karl's guidance, Claudia learned the rules. Show up on time, do the work, don't complain, don't explain, don't give them anything to talk about except the clothes and the beauty. Be professional, be perfect, be ice. "Darling," Karl would tell her, adjusting a collar, fixing a hemline. "They will try to make you human. Don't let them. Humans are messy. You need to be something else, something more." Let me paint you a picture of what supermodel fame looked like in the early 90s. No Instagram, no Twitter, no way to control your image beyond what magazines printed. But somehow, some way, 5 women became more famous than most movie stars. Naomi, Linda, Christy, Cindy, and Claudia. They weren't just models, they were phenomenal. By 1992, Claudia was getting paid $20,000 just to walk down a runway. $20,000 for walking, for 90 seconds of work. Designers would rearrange their entire show schedules around her availability. If Claudia couldn't make it, they'd move the date. But the really insane part? The fans. When I was out on the runway, I'd come back and constantly my underwear would be gone. My bra, my knickers, gone. That's not some made-up story. That's Claudia herself describing what it was like backstage. Security guards had to be posted at her dressing area because people would sneak in and steal her intimate clothing as souvenirs, like she was a rock star and her underwear was a guitar pick thrown into the crowd. At fashion shows, fans would literally cut holes in the tents to photograph the models. The desperation to glimpse these women was so intense that people would vandalize property just for a blurry photo. Claudia would arrive at shows surrounded by bodyguards, not because she demanded it, because without them, she'd be mobbed. Milan, Paris, New York, it didn't matter. The crowds were everywhere. One time in Paris, a group of fans figured out her hotel and camped outside for 3 days, just waiting for her to emerge. When she finally did, the rush was so intense that police had to be called to create a pathway to her car. This wasn't normal fame, this was hysteria. The business side was equally insane. Dolce & Gabbana described her as having luxurious, shining golden locks, eyes as blue as Sicilian waters, a body stature recalling antique goddesses. When designers talk about you like you're a mythological being, you know you've transcended mere modeling. Magazine editors would beg for Claudia covers because they knew sales would spike. One Vogue editor allegedly said that putting Claudia on the cover guaranteed at least 20% more newsstand sales, in an industry where 5% is considered a victory. And through it all, Claudia remained calm, collected, perfect. The press started calling her the Ice Queen. Funny thing about nicknames, sometimes they're insults that become armor. The Ice Queen. It sounds cold, doesn't it? Distant, untouchable. But in an industry that thrived on drama, being ice was Claudia's superpower. While Naomi was throwing phones, while Kate was defining heroin chic, while Linda was declaring she wouldn't get out of bed for less than $10,000 a day, Claudia was quiet, professional, reliable. She'd show up on time. She'd nail the shot. She'd leave. No tantrums, no gossip, no scandals. The 1992 Revlon contract, $6 million a year for 10 years. The kind of money that makes you wonder if there's a typo. But Revlon wasn't paying for just a face. They were paying for a guarantee. With Claudia, you knew what you were getting. No surprise pregnancies, no drug scandals, no leaked photos from wild parties. She was, in the words of one fashion executive, scandal-proof. Her image was so carefully controlled it felt almost supernatural. Perfect skin, perfect hair, perfect body, perfect behavior. Even her relationship seemed perfect. Engaged to David Copperfield, the world's most famous magician. 2 beautiful, successful people living a fairy tale. The Copperfield years were their own kind of performance. She'd appear at his shows, he'd saw her in half or make her levitate. The audience would gasp at the illusion, not knowing the real trick was the relationship itself. When Paris Match published claims that their engagement was a publicity stunt, Claudia was essentially paid to be his fiancée. They sued for $30 million. The magazine retracted. The couple insisted their love was real. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. The point is, even their drama was controlled, legal, dignified. Nothing messy, nothing tabloid-worthy beyond the initial allegation. Except fairy tales aren't real, and neither was the perfection. Behind the scenes, Claudia was building walls, tall ones, the kind that keep you safe but also keep you isolated. She'd learned from Karl Lagerfeld that the fashion world would devour you if you let it. So she didn't let it. She did her own makeup, trusting no one else with her face. She chose her own outfits for events. She gave interviews sparingly, and when she did, she revealed nothing personal. Even her friends in the industry were kept at arm's length. Except maybe Carla Bruni, who understood the value of privacy. "I had the reputation as a sort of ice queen," Claudia would later admit. A little cool, professional, and always restrained when out of the spotlight. A somewhat harsh but not unfair description. But ice can crack, and when it does, the sound is deafening. 2001 should have been a good year for Claudia. She was 31, still booking major campaigns, newly in love with Matthew Vaughn. The Copperfield years were behind her. They'd split in '99 after fighting off those fake relationship lawsuits from Paris Match. She was ready for something real. Then someone broke into her house in Mallorca. Imagine coming home to find a stranger has been in your space, touched your things, waited for you, the violation of it, the fear that follows you from room to room. That was just the beginning. 2002, an Italian man named Agostino Pomata shows up at her English estate. Not once, not twice, 9 times. His excuse? The Pope told him to marry her. The Pope personally instructed him to marry Claudia Schiffer. Security footage showed him lurking around the property, leaving letters, trying to get close. When police finally detained him under the Mental Health Act, they discovered this wasn't his first celebrity obsession. He'd been deported from America for stalking Sharon Stone. 2004, another one. A 21-year-old Canadian this time, slipping love letters to her staff, hanging around the Suffolk mansion. Police warnings didn't stop him. Deportation did. 3 stalkers in 4 years. 3 men who believed they owned a piece of her because they'd seen her face in magazines. But here's the part that really gets me. The paparazzi incident nobody knew about. 2001, Mallorca again. Claudia's on vacation with Matthew Vaughn. Private beach, private moment. Except some photographer with a long lens was hiding nearby. Got photos. Intimate ones, the kind that end up on tabloid covers with screaming headlines. Eduardo Sanchez Junco, the editor of Hola magazine, saw those photos hit the market. And instead of publishing them, instead of making bank on Claudia Schiffer's private moments, he did something extraordinary. He bought them for £100,000, then he buried them. Not for money, not for favors, just because he believed she deserved dignity. Years later, when this story finally came out, people asked him why. His answer was simple. Some things should stay private. In an industry that commodifies everything, one man spent a fortune to protect a woman's privacy. Because even ice queens deserve kindness, these weren't isolated incidents. They were patterns. The price of being perfect, of being untouchable, was that everyone wanted to touch you, to own you, to prove you were human after all. The strategic retreat. By 2002, Claudia had a choice to make. She could keep playing the game, the campaigns, the runways, the constant vigilance against photographers and stalkers. Or she could do something radical. She could disappear. Not dramatically, not with some big announcement. Just slowly, deliberately, like a master chess player planning 10 moves ahead. First came the wedding to Matthew Vaughn. Private ceremony, no magazine deals, no paparazzi, just them. Then came the house. Coldham Hall, a 16th century Tudor manor in Suffolk, about as far from the fashion world as you could get while still being in England. No nightclubs, no scene, just countryside and quiet. The babies followed. Casper in 2003, Clementine in 2004, Cosima in 2010. Each child another reason to stay away from the chaos. She stopped doing runway shows, turned down campaigns, said no to magazine covers that a decade earlier she would have killed for. The girl who once held the record for most magazine covers was now actively avoiding them. Some models fade away because the industry discards them. Claudia faded away because she chose to. "I never had the urge to be in the spotlight," she'd said years earlier. Turns out she meant it. But here's what's brilliant about her disappearance. She didn't vanish entirely. She'd pop up occasionally, a charity event here, a Chanel anniversary there. Just enough to remind people she existed, not enough to be overexposed. She launched a cashmere line, did some design collaborations, kept her hand in the business without being consumed by it. Every appearance calculated, every photo approved, every moment controlled. In 2010, disaster almost struck. Old photos from a Karl Lagerfeld shoot resurfaced. Images where she'd been styled in blackface and yellowface for a Dom Perignon campaign. The fashion world held its breath. This was the kind of scandal that destroyed careers, the kind of controversy that turned icons into pariahs. But Claudia handled it like she handled everything else. Her representatives defended the images as art. She didn't personally comment. She didn't apologize or explain or try to justify. She just let it pass. And somehow it did. The Ice Queen's armor held, because by then she'd figured out the secret. If you're not actively in the game, you can't lose. The Ice Queen hadn't melted. She'd just moved her kingdom somewhere safer. September 2018, Milan Fashion Week. The Versace show is about to start, and the fashion world is buzzing with rumors. Something special is happening. Something about the 90s. Something about the supers. Cindy, Naomi, Helena, Carla, and Claudia. 20 years after she'd walked away from regular runway work, there she is. The walk unchanged. The presence still magnetic. The crowd loses their minds. But watch that footage closely. Watch Claudia's face. She's not trying to recapture something lost. She's not desperate to prove she's still got it. She's just there, present, professional, perfect. The same woman who at 19 had Karl Lagerfeld eating out of her hand. The same woman who survived the insanity of 90s supermodel fame. The same woman who built walls so high that scandal couldn't touch her. Still standing, still walking, still ice. Fast forward to September 2023. Milan Fashion Week again. Versace again. But this time, something's different. Claudia walks the runway at 53 years old, and in the audience, watching their mother command the catwalk, are her children. She could have had surgery, could have tried to freeze herself in time like so many do. Instead, she's 53 and owning it. Every line, every year, every change. "I am so happy to turn 50, she'd said a few years earlier. "In my life, I have never felt safer or happier." Safe. Happy. Not words you usually hear from women who spent their youth being hunted by cameras and stalkers, but Claudia Schiffer was never usual. When you think about Claudia Schiffer today, living in her Tudor manor, cooking in her kitchen, raising her kids, she looks nothing like the supermodel who once commanded $20,000 per runway walk. No makeup artists hovering, no stylists selecting outfits, no photographers waiting to capture every angle. She looks normal, happy, like someone's mom, like someone's wife, like someone who won. Because that's what this is, isn't it? Winning. Not by the fashion world's standards, by her own. She took their money. She took their adoration. She gave them their pictures and their shows and their fantasy. And then, when she'd had enough, she took it all back. Her face, her image, her life. The other supermodels? They wrote books, launched brands, stayed visible. Nothing wrong with that. But Claudia? She curated a museum exhibition about 90s fashion photography, as if to say, that was then, this is history now, I control how it's remembered. In 2021, her exhibition, Captivate, opened at the Kunstpalast Dusseldorf. Full circle, the girl from Germany returns as curator, not model. She selected the images. She wrote the narratives. She decided how the story of 90s fashion would be told. The power shift was complete. You know what the real kicker is? She almost had a Hermes bag named after her. The Schiffer bag. Would have been right up there with the Birkin and the Kelly. but her agent told her to say no, and she listened. "If I could advise my younger self," she later said, "I'd say, ignore your agent and say yes." It's the only regret she's ever publicly admitted to. Not the stalkers, not the pressure, not the insanity of it all. Just a handbag. A missed business opportunity. Even now, when she appears at Fashion Week, you can see it. The photographers still go crazy. The designers still beg. The crowd still gasps. But Claudia? She gives them exactly what she wants to give. Not 1 second more. She cracked the code that most never figure out. The only way to win the game is to stop playing. So she did. And she won. Perfect to the end. The Ice Queen forever. Just the way she planned it.